Yo, what is up? Is your boy Buff Lars, and today we are doing a Lars tutorial for season 3, just in general. Um, Actually, this is the wrong stage, but yeah, I'm making a guide for Lars, the man, the myth, the legend, and I'm making this guide because people have been asking me on how to play the character, and it's kind of hard for me to just explain it on the spot, so yeah, here we are. But before we get into it, I just want to talk about what is Lars' strengths, for example. So Lars is great at punishment. He has some of the best block punishment and whip punishment in the game. He also has very solid pokes, and he has some very clean movement also. Like, he has very good backdash. Like, a lot of people say Miguel has a good backdash. Lars' backdash is up there on that level. His sidestep's pretty good. He can sidestep through some specific strings that I'm not gonna get into. You just have to, but like, his sidestep's better than the average sidestep. His weaknesses is that his tracking is terrible. He has some of the worst tracking, in my opinion, in the game, because he's weak to everything. Loses the sidestep right, basically. Yeah, so like, he's really bad to sidestep right. If you're not doing back one, his homing move, the only moves that track are down back 4, which is fine, but it's launch punish, so if the opponent catches on, they can like launch you for it. Down 4 2 tracks to the right, but since it's not a hit confirm, you can't like confirm the launch off it, so you just basically have to use down 4 2 as a poke if they're sidestepping you. And then there's also up 4 3, but I highly recommend never to do up 4 3 to catch someone sidestepping to the right, because that's just plain stupid. But yeah, so great pokes, great movement, great punishment, bad tracking. I'd say his lows are good, but they're all like really risky, like down back 4 launch punish, down 1+2 launch punish, 4 4 4 3, or dynamic entry 4 3 launch punish. The slide launch punish. I think the only low that's not launch punish is down back 1. But if you do down back 1 3 and they duck the low and you go high, you're most likely going to get launched anyway. So like, all his lows are pretty like launch punish-y. And I think the only other thing he's not good at is making a comeback in rounds. Like, he has good combo damage, but just like opening the opponent up can be a struggle at times if they have really good defense. Like, Lars is a very honest character, so you're not going to be able to do some, be like, if you're playing how wrong players can press on the gas with the pressure that he can build and the different attack patterns he has. But like, Lars is like bare bone. He's like, in general, he's just like a poke character with great movement. He has some mix-ups, but they're not busted mix-ups. They're not really hard to deal with mix-ups. They're just mix-ups, so you know. And he has some counter hit launchers, but I wouldn't really say they're the best. Out of all of his counter hit launchers, I say down back 4 is his best counter hit launcher. Or, it's like up for the debate, but like down back 4, it's really good. Dynamic entry 2, busted, in my opinion, but everyone says it's not busted, but that's just my own personal opinion on the move. 2-1-3, season 3 change, counter hit launchers now, but it's okay. I don't really hit a lot of people with it though. Full crouch, down 4-2, counter hit launcher. This move's good, but it's not like a move you can just like throw out. I mean, you could because it's safe, but for me specifically, I don't do that. It's more like I get frame advantage and then I go for it, just to tell my opponent that they can't press after I do a specific move, which I'm going to get into later. But 1-1-1's pretty good on counter hit. Like 1-1-1, it's all guaranteed on counter hit. Knocks the opponent away, splats him on the wall, tempering startup. So it's like a Mishima 1-1-2. You just can't hit confirm it. So it's pretty solid. But going into his punishment, the reason why he has good punishment, black punish wise, because his 10 frame jab punish 2-1 does 20 damage. It got buffed by 2 points in season 3. So his 10 frame black punisher does 20 damage, not bad. 12 frames is 424, does 32 damage, and it hits him away on an angle. And you see when they tech, if they're teching backwards like that, or just in general, they go for like a side quick roll from it. They tech off the ground, but you get a mix up technically after you do 4-2-4 because dynamic entry can set you up for a mix up if they're going to tech. So you could do 4-2-4 into dynamic entry 2, and it realigns while they're teching, and then at the same time you could do dynamic entry 4-3. So you have a mid-low mix-up that you can go for between a counter hit launcher mid and 34 damage low mid string that's natural hit, and it's +2 on hit. So pretty good mix-up after the 12 frame punish. Like this move obviously wall splats too. So yeah, I think it's like -12 on block, but it's like a move you could just throw out because it's 12 frames. And like I don't really think people are gonna duck the string reactively. You might get punished though. You might get punished. 13 frames, shoulder, but I never even use shoulder for block punishment. Like, why am I gonna use a shoulder that knocks you way farther away and I get nothing out of it? I get no mix up afterwards, and it does 28 damage when I have 4-2-4. You know, like the shoulder has its uses more like if you're trying to get someone off you, or you see them whiff really close to you and you need something really fast to punish with, you can shoulder them. But the shoulder's okay. 14 frames, we have forward back 2-1. 14 frame launcher. The one issue with it is that it's -18. So if you're playing online and you say like you're fighting Jack and he does down 4-2 and you try doing this and you mess up, you're probably getting launched for it. So keep that in mind. Do not just throw this move out because it's a launcher and it's 14 frame startup. Please don't do that because you're going to get your ass whooped for it by a good player. I would definitely say this move is easy to connect with on punishment against strings, but when it comes to single hit moves on reaction, it's pretty hard. Like most of the time, if I fight a Jack player and they're doing down 4-2, I usually just go with 4-2-4 as my punish because it's honestly not worth the risk of me messing up the launch just for me to give them a launch in return. So yeah, it is what it is. And then finally, we got Arc Blast, 15 frames, 15 frame launcher. It's -13 on block, so you could throw it out and not get punished hard for it. It used to be 14 frames, but they made it 15 frames in season 2. I mean, it used to be -14, but they made it -13 in season 2. So Arc Blast, very good. When it comes to wall standing punishment, we have wall standing, obviously the generic wall standing 4 at 11, wall standing 2-1 at 13, and then 15 we have wall standing 1, his one launcher from it. I mean, you could do up 4-3 for wall standing block punish, but I just go wall standing 1 in my opinion. You get more damage from your combos from wall standing 1 compared to up 4-3. So that covers his block punishment. When it comes to whiff punishment, like really good whiff punishers for him is like down 4-2-1. This is a really good whiff punisher when you're at close range. I mean, it's mid high. If they whiff, they're gonna get hit. It's like I would say it's like a low risk, high reward type of punish. I mean, yeah, like you could miss the first hit and they duck the second hit, but like if you time your punish right, you're not going to get launched in return because you're always going to be launching them. So like down 4-2 is good, down 4-2-1, excuse me. Back to Re4, one of his best whiff punishers because it hits so far away. It splats the opponent on the wall. It's safe on block now. It used to be -12 in season 1. Now it's like -8, but they can duck the second hit. So if you're gonna go for back 3-4, make sure you connect with it. In like certain situations, when you're at the wall, a lot of times I go for back 3-4 to try fishing for a wall splat. If I can find a reposition, oh, here we go. So like a lot of times I go for I try fishing for back 3-4 when I have the opponent at the wall, but like eventually they're gonna say, hey, he's doing back 3-4 a lot. Let me just wait on this and duck the high. But if I know this, I can do back 3 into silent entry and just give myself a mix up. So ideally, when I have the opponent at the wall, I kind of mix around with back 3-4 and back 3 into silent entry mix up, just so I can keep it honest, my offense honest at the wall. But back into the whiff punishment. So back 3-4, down 4-2-1. Arc blast is pretty good at range 1. Like for example, I could do like down 4-1, I backdash, and I go into arc blast. If they're gonna like jab check me if they get hit by a down 4-1. Arc blast is really good at close ranges. Then we got orbital. His orbital has great range. It can whiff pretty easily, but if you're like specifically like going for it on like whiff punishment, orbital's fantastic. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know how to explain the best way to use this orbital. I kind of use it sometimes in panic situations when I shouldn't. It's a move that you can definitely just throw out because it's safe on block and it has great range. But just keep in mind, it's one of the most linear orbitals in the game because it's so slow. So if you're going to do it, just have the right timing for it, because you can whip this move pretty easily. I've whipped this move so many times against specific players I fought, and then I've gotten launched for it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Down back 2-1. Down back 2-1's a really good whip punish. Also at close range, +5 on hit. So it's still your turn afterwards. So yeah, I think that covers just about all of his whiff punishers. So after that, I want to talk about. Let me check this. All right, talk about his pokes. So Lars has some pretty solid pokes. He has a lot to work with. For example, jabs, 1-2 is like -1 on block, +7 on hit, 2-1, +5 on hit. Has 2 extensions to it, so like you can work around with it. No, 2-1 is +3 on hit, but it's -5 on block. So if the move gets blocked, just don't do anything afterwards because you can't sidestep in most situations at -5. But 2-1's good poke, 1-2's good poke, down forward 1 of course, very strong down forward 1, great range. It kind of tracks to the right sometimes and it kind of tracks to the left sometimes. It just depends on the situation. It's not consistent on which way it tracks, so just keep that in mind. But it's -1 on block, and certain matchups you can use down forward 1 a lot as your offensive tool, because like take Steve for example. Steve's back 1 is 13 frame startup. So since Lars down forward 1's -1, and you're trying to play around the back 1 to just pressure the Steve player down because you don't want him to pressure you, you could do like down forward 1 into jabs, and back 1 will never stuff you for it. Like one thing I've been doing a lot in this season since 1-1-1 guy has changed to a counter hit knockdown, I do like down forward 1. I feel the opponent out with down forward 1s into like side steps or back dashes or down forward 1, and then once I think they're gonna press, I do down forward 1 into 1-1-1. And in the case of like Steve or Claudio, since his 4-3 is 13 frame startup also, 1-1-1 will beat those panic options. So like if I have him at the wall, it's a free wall splat. If I just have him in a neutral, it's free damage, resets to neutral, they get knocked away. So you know, yeah, like down forward 1 is probably like his best poke. Down back 2-1, also a good poke. It's like -6 or -7 on block, but it's +5 on hit, as I was saying earlier. So definitely take your turn afterwards. Down back 4 is like his low pokes, I would say he has down back 1, down back 4, and down 4. They're all pretty solid. Down 4 tracks both ways, gives you minimal damage. I'm pretty sure it's not plus on hit, but like tracks both ways. Down back 1 can kind of be linear, but it's really good because you could just like mess with your opponent around, just doing like dash up, down back 1, down back 1 threes, or just like down back 1s. If you just do down back 1, you can. It's -1 on block, so you could only sidestep left, or you can only sidestep into the screen, depending on which side you're on, or you could just backdash, or if you think since it puts you in crouch and leaves them standing, you could do like down back 1 and go into while standing 2, and while standing 2 high crushes. So if you think they're going to do like a magic 4, or you think they're going to do a Mishima 1-1-2, you could do down back 1 into while standing 2-1, and it'll crush the highs. So you just got to feel the opponent out, see what they like doing after they get hit by it, and just make your read accordingly. Same thing can be said about down back 4, because it also crushes. It also high crushes, counter hit launcher. Does 17 damage for a low. I mean, it's kind of seeable. It's launch punishable, but like I use it so much that it doesn't really matter because it has ridiculous range. Like, look at this range. The range is crazy. So it doesn't really matter to me if it's launch punish. It has fantastic range, +5 on hit. So the opponent can't do anything after that, and it puts them in crouch. So like if they want to match a wall standing 4, they can't, because I could do down back 4 into full crouch down 4 too, and that's a frame trap. So they're going to get launched for that. Or I could just do down back 4 into wall standing 2-1, another frame trap. So then once your opponent starts seeing that they can't press after down back 4, that's when you start mixing up your other options. You could do like down back 4 into full crouch low. You could do down back 4, sidestep down back 4, or like down back 4, sidestep 2. Or you could just do down back 4, dash up, and like continue poking once they start respecting your frames. You know, you just got to just feel the opponent out accordingly as you keep playing. What have I talked about? I talked about jabs, down 4-1, down back 2-1. I would say like down 4-2 can be a poke. It's +3 on hit. But I would encourage you not to just throw this out straight up, because good players are going to duck this. So if you're going to use down 4-2, just use it as a poke. It's +3 on hit. It's like -6 on block. So you just have to, just like you're giving up your turn when you do this, but it's not really a big of a deal. You're safe. Only way you're going to eat something is if they go low and you're not ducking afterwards, but that's not a big deal to me. So yeah, down 4-2 can be a poke. Down back 2-1, down 4-1 jabs. Talked about down 4. Talked about down back 4, down back 1 / down back 1-3. I guess you could say like back 1 can be a poke. It's his only homing move. Well, his only good homing move. But back 1, 15 frame startup. It gives you a counter hit knockdown / wall splat. I think like it didn't used to do this in season 1. This is a season 2 change. I think it was mostly for wall splats, but it's kind of weird at times, because if you're like not exactly, if the opponent's like a little bit away from the wall, they'll still splat, but you won't be able to get like a full combo off it. So like, I didn't really like the. It would have been better as a counter hit like launcher, but I guess that would have been cheap if they did that. But it's a really good move. Oh yeah, there's 1-4. His Legionnaire spin 1-4. Nice little change of pace move, because it's +1 on a hit. I think it's +1 on hit. So like it's still your turn. So you could do like 1-4 into down forward 1 if you don't think they're going to do a magic 4. Like do 1-4 into jabs, or just like 1-4 into like a sidestep backdash, whatever you want. Really, you can do 1-4 into 1-4 just to get in your opponent's head. You just have to make the reads as you're playing. I think that covers all the pokes I want to talk about. Let me just double check. I have like everything written down just to make sure I cover everything, because I tried doing a video for this already and I did not cover everything, I think. And I guess you could count back to one as a poke. It's a -10, so you don't get punished really hard for it, but it's a delayable hit confirm string, so it's not bad. It's mid, and back 2 by itself is like -6, so it's not a bad string at all. And this, you can hit confirm this for days, so just keep that in mind. And it's counter hit launcher also, so you could just keep getting in your opponent's head. They keep blocking it, or like you do back 2 and try doing down 4-1 instead. Eventually they'll get hit by the second hit of the delay, and then yeah, you just launch them. But I think the one thing about Lars, I think that covers all the pokes, but I think one thing about Lars is that he doesn't really have that much frame advantage on block. It's more like he's usually just like neutral, or he has running 3. Like running 3 is like his only move that really gives him big plus frames if it's not his rage drive. Like his running 3 is like +7, +8, you know, like typical running moves. But for most parts, like he has down 2, 0 on block, forces crouch, 19 frame startup, so it's a slower move. It's a counter hit knockdown. You don't really get anything like guaranteed from it, but like it's a knockdown. It's +8 on hit, I think now. I think it's +8 on hit now. But you can really just like mix your opponent up a lot with it, because you can do down 2 into a side step, because it looks like it puts you in crouch, but it doesn't. So you could do down 2 into a side step, into a backdash, down 2 into jab. Like the thing I was talking about earlier with down forward 1 into 1-1-1. The same thing kind of applies with his down 2 and silent entry down forward 1, because they're both 0 on block. They both force you into crouch. So if you think your opponent's gonna do like a while standing 4 after you put them in crouch, you can do 1-1-1 and see if they get hit by it. The only thing is that since it's not a hit confirm, if your opponent knows it's -14, they can launch you for it. So depending on the matchup, I would say be very cautious about that. But I haven't really been launched that much for doing 1-1-1. So until the opponent starts launching me for it, I'm probably going to keep doing it. But just keep that in mind. So like down 2 puts you in crouch, 0 on block. But the season 3 change was that if you hold down afterwards, it puts you in crouch. So after a while, like if you're doing like a long set with somebody and you're like doing down 2 in the jabs, or like down 2 in the side steps, and you realize they're respecting the down 2 every time, you could do like down 2 in the crouch and go for like full crouch low, just to mix up your options up, or do like down 2 on a while standing 4. It's a nice little change. It gives him more options to work with when he's being on the offensive. So I talked about running 3. I talked about down 2, down forward 1. The silent entry down forward 1 is basically like his down 2. What else does this say? I'd say like his biggest moments when Lars has good frame advantage is from his lows, unfortunately. Like obviously like you get good frame advantage on hit from his mids and his highs, but like his lows all have some pretty decent frame advantage on hit. Like down back 4 +5 on hit, silent entry 2. It was +3, but now it's +5 in season 3. Full crouch down forward 1, it's +1. So just treat it as you jabbing the opponent and go for like a side step or like a grab or whatever. Because his one jab, because Lars' jab is +1 also, so I wouldn't say you can do anything you want after the full crouch down for 1, but it is +1. And forward 3 is +2 now. It used to be 0, and before that it used to be -5. So we've come a long way with this move. Season 1 it was -5 and did 34 damage, but I never did the move because it was launch punish and it was -5, so I didn't really see the point of it. But now it's +2, and what makes it so great about it being +2 is that, I mean, they're not right on you as they get hit. They have space to backdash or sidestep, but let's say like your opponent's doing nothing after they get hit by this. because usually I do like 4-4-4-3 or the dynamic entry version of it, and then I try filling them out with jabs, maybe a down forward one, because they can't just mash whatever they want afterwards, or like if they're going to sidestep, I do back one. But if I realize that they're not pressing anything and they're barely moving afterwards, then a lot of times I do the dynamic entry version of it, and then I just do it again. Because if they're not going to do anything, then I'm just going to then I can do it again. They're just anticipating on seeing it, but this move's not really seeable, so I just do it again at times. It's really good. So yeah, that covers really his moments of where he has good frame advantage, because with silent entry 2, it's the same thing as a down back 4. Both +5, both put you in crouch. So like if they're pressing buttons after they get hit, full crouch, down forward 2. But when they start respecting and not pressing, that's when you can start mixing up your options. You can do like wall setting 4 afterwards, full crouch low, side step 2, you know, stuff like that. Ah, man, I need a drink of water, but I have no water on me. But that covers about his frames on hit. That gives him like good pressure. I've already talked about his counter hits for most parts in the beginning. What else did I write down? I think I just have his stances left, and that covers everything. And then a neutral game plan. So going into his stances, we have 2 stances, and both stances are pretty busted in my opinion. Not because of like they're brain dead, just like the overall utility and the risk reward factor of them is pretty safe in my opinion. Like silent, like we talk about dynamic entry or Den for example, or Den for short. So Den 1, it's -1 on block now. This used to be -3. So Den 1 is basically like a down forward 1 for Lars, except it's a high, but it's unseeable, you know. Don't count on the opponent to see this at all times. And it's a great gap closer, because dynamic entry in general is a good gap closer. Like all that range, it's like 3 backdashes I think. My controller's kind of broken, so that's why I can't backdash that well. So like from like 3 backdashes away, Den 1 closes the gap already, and you're at -1. That's pretty ridiculous. There's also Den 1-2. So if I'm mixing up my Den 1s with like Den 1 is a side step or Den 1 is a down forward 1, the opponent might think in their head, all right, I need to challenge this dude when he does this. And then that's when you do Den 1-2. It's a knockdown, and you get guaranteed damage afterwards. The only way it's not guaranteed is if they're holding back when they get hit by it. Like if they're not holding back when they get hit by this move, then they can get hit by like dynamic entry 2. They can get hit by like dash up down 1+2, or like dash up down back 4. Just like anything that hits on the ground will hit them if they don't tech backwards. So Den 1-2 has its moments of being really good. Also good for wall carry. I'm not really going to go into combos in this video, but like Den 1-2 is good for wall carry at the end of your combos. Dynamic entry 2. This busted move. I love this move so much because also has great range. It's a counter hit launcher, and like the thing with dynamic entry, you can delay these moves for a pretty decent time. Like look how much time I have to do this move on a delay. And that's the one thing about the stance. Like I could do dash cancels with it. He doesn't have this is basically like his Mishima wave dash, but it just leaves you more vulnerable to get hit. But it's pretty easy to do. You just do like forward and down really fast. Like you do forward 3, excuse me. I'm not sure if you're hearing the forward right with the mic, but it's forward 3, and then you just do down, you just do down or up afterwards, just to cancel it. But you just do it really fast. So yeah, dynamic entry is a really good stance because of that. Because I could just dash in the opponent's face a few times, and then the next time I just delay it once, and then do dynamic entry 2 instead. And dynamic entry 2 on its startup can high crush at times. So they want to go for like a magic 4 or like a jab check depending on when I do the move, I could crush it and get a counter hit launch for it. So dynamic entry 2, very good. Dynamic entry 3, it's +4. It is a wall bounce. So yeah, +4 wall bounce. It's a mid, very slow. I don't really use this move out in the neutral game that much because you can step it easily. But in some situations, for example, if I can, no, there we go. If they're laying on the ground and they tech and they do like a side tech, they do a side quick roll. If I hit them with like a lot of situations that I notice when I'm playing against people that lay on the ground a lot, you hit them with dynamic entry 2. It's either A, they're going to tech, or B, they're going to lay on the ground again. So the process is basically like you hit them with dynamic entry 2 until you think they're going to tech, and when they tech, you do dynamic entry 2 into dynamic entry 3. And as they're teching, dynamic entry 3 realigns with them. So when if you're on a small stage and you have the opponent at the wall, this is really good because it will realign to them. And then they gotta guess. I mean, yeah, I mean, like technically it's a guess, because I'm pretty sure. Okay, I lied. It's not a guess. But if their opponent's prone to duck after they tech off the ground, they're gonna get hit by this because it realigns both ways. Yeah, so it realigns both ways. You're plus, but as you can see, there's all this space, so you can't do anything even though you're +4 because of the pushback. But when you have the opponent at the wall, the opponent's still on. You're still on the opponent, so you can still use the frame advantage to your advantage. So yeah, dynamic entry 3 has its moments of being good, just not every moment. Dynamic entry for 3. This used not to be a move, but this was a season 2 change. They just made it. They basically gave him a low from the stance, which was a pretty big buff, in my opinion. So same thing as 4-4-4-3. It's +2 on hit. Low, mid, natural hit combo. So if they eat the low, they're going to get hit by the mid. They're not that far away after they get hit, but like it's like they can't really challenge you that much, because like if they do a jab check, I could do this in the 4-2-4 and it will trade, but I could do this into 1-1-1 and they get wall splat, you know. So like as I was saying before, if your opponent's doing nothing after they get hit by this move, just do it again, because it's free damage. Like 2 of those, like if you eat 2 of those in a row, that's 68 damage right there. 2 of these in a row is 1 combo of damage. This is why I'm saying Lars is good at poking the opponent down. So it's actually worth to do the move now. Like season 1, yeah, you had the 34 damage, but it was -5 on it hit, and it was launch punish. It was like a high risk, low reward move, in my opinion. But now this move's like high risk, high reward. So you know, it's a really good move. And then finally, dynamic entry 1+2. It is, it's -10 on block, but it has pushback, so you can't really punish it unless you're like, no, I don't think you can actually punish it. Let me see, because it puts you in crouch even though it's -10, so I don't think you can actually get punished. Alright, yeah, alright, so down jab's the only thing you can punish with. So yeah, -10 gets punished by down jabs because it puts you in crouch. So a lot of people don't realize that. So when you get put into crouch by it and they block it, for example, say like they go for like a high or something, you can do while standing 2-1 afterwards. Or you could just straight up whip the move and be like right in your opponent's face, because look how far it puts you in front of the opponent from so far away. Like I'm this far away from the opponent. I do this once, I'm back in the opponent's face. I'm in crouch, I'm -10. But even though I whiffed, I'm still technically like in safe territory because it's only -10 and they can only hit me with a dick jab. But they're most likely going to go for like a high move if they see me whiff. And this is a screw launcher on hit anyway, and it has like some tracking to it also on hit. I think it kind of like tracks to the left. So like this move's not bad whatsoever. Like sometimes when I'm fighting these people, I do this into full crouch down forward 2 because they see the whiff and then they want to press, but then like I'm doing the down forward 2 before they actually press a button and I get a free counter hit launcher. It's a little cheesy strat. It doesn't work all the time, but like yeah, it's its moments. So yeah, that move's underrated good. Screw launcher, tracks, -10 but puts you in crouch, so only dick jab can punish you. It's a good move. So that covers, and I guess I should talk about like what transitions into dynamic entry. Like obviously you just hit forward 3 to do it, but you can also do down forward 3 down, and it puts you in the stance. I mostly do this for like combos for my combo carry, but when I have the opponent at the wall, sometimes when they're taking off the ground, I do like down forward 3 down, and then just do a dynamic entry move. This works way too much than it should because on block this is fake. Like this whole thing is fake, but people just don't realize that it's fake. So like if I block the down forward 3, like they get blasted. I have like 15 frame. I can hit them with arc blasts, but like people just don't realize that it's fake pressure. So I just keep doing it at the wall. I mean, I could honestly do it in a neutral game, but I haven't really like. That's not how I play. But you could do that if you wanted to until the opponent realizes that it's fake. So yeah, down forward 3 down is the only move that goes into dynamic entry if you're not just doing dynamic entry straight up. I'm talking so much. 1 second. I need water. I need water. Jeez Louise. Okay. Finally, silent entry. Another good stance. So a silent entry. He has like 6 moves from it. Silent entry 1. -10 on block. Has some slight pushback. So depending on your character, you have to test and see what you can punish with, because with Lars, for example, his 1-2 jab doesn't always punish it, but his 2-1 jab always punishes it. See, like it whipped right there, and it just straight up whipped right there. But like if I do 2-1, always punishes it. So you just have to lab whoever you're using. You just have to lab what 10 frame move punishes it every time. So yeah, pretty low risk, high reward move because it's a wall bounce. So it's a mid wall bounce from a stance. Pretty good. And silent entry can crush highs at times depending on the timing you do it. And this was a season 2 change. You can do dynamic entry into silent entry now. I'm guessing this was mostly for his rage drive, because it was really hard to get into his rage drive from silent entry. So going back to what I was saying before about you just delaying stuff with silent entry, the same thing applies with the transition to delaying stuff with dynamic entry. Excuse me. The same thing applies with silent entry transition. So I could do like, with all that, like I have all that time to transition into it, and it may not seem like it's much, but like that delay, when you're fighting an opponent that's respecting you, that delay can like make or break a round for you. So because like you have a mid wall bounce, you have a mid move that forces you into crouch, and you're still technically your turn, like you're neutral, but you're more advantageous of the opponent because they're in crouch, so their fastest move is a 11 frame move if they're not dick jabbing. But I'm standing, you know, like I'm still in their face, I'm standing, So like, yeah, the silent entry down forward one, also very good because of that, because it's basically Lars down 2. It's +8 on hit now. I don't know why they did that, but it was +4 on hit in season 2, but then they made it +8 on hit, which I didn't really understand. So yeah, more frame advantage, forces crouch, 0 on block. It used to be -4 on block and force crouch, now it's 0. So it's basically more pressure for Lars offensively. So good move. There's silent entry 2. This move is so good because 1 is not launch punish. That just like, that's fantastic. It's not launch punish. It's like 13 frame punish, or like 14, I think. I think Bob can launch it, and like Kazuya and Josie obviously, but I'm pretty sure Bob launches it, so I'd say it's -14 on block. But since the majority of cast can't launch it, I think it's worth to do it at times, because they can only do like a while standing 13 frame punish, so it's not too bad. At the same time, it high crushes moves, and it is also a counter hit launcher. If I can key charge. So yeah, counter hit launcher, high crushes, not launch punish, and they made it +5 on hit. It was previously +3 on hit, but now it's +5 on hit, and forces the opponent into crouch when they get hit. So that's a lot that this move does, and it's basically the same thing as down back 4. So like, if they get hit by this, they cannot press, because if they press, down forward 2 is going to hit them. The 4 crouch, down forward 2 is going to hit them. So yeah, it also leaves Lars in crouch, so I could just do while standing 2 also. But yeah, silent entry 2, fantastic move. Silent entry 3, I don't even use this move anymore. It's all mid launcher. It's like -14 on block. But why would I ever use this move? Because I have a -10 wall bounce. I have a 0 on block move that forces crouch, and this move wall splats on counter hit. If I can, so it's a wall splat on counter hit. So I really have no real reason to use silent entry 3 anymore. I mostly just use silent entry 3 for my combos, for some like combo enders. For example, where is it at? All right. Just because like sometimes I end my combos like that, because I can dash up and do like a full crouch and go for a full crouch mix up as they're attacking off the ground. So yeah, that's like the only real time I use silent entry 3. But it's all right. But he has like 4 other options that are just better to do. And then then we got the new move, the backlash. It's -10. It's a high. It's slow, but you get some pretty big damage from it when it hits. If I could do the combo. I mean, you get decent enough damage from it. So yeah, I definitely think this move is a move you gotta work with, because it's not cheap, not a cheap move at all. If you're at lower skill levels in this game, it's really good, because since people like pressing buttons in a neutral game at lower skill levels, silent entry 4 is just going to blow them up so much, because people don't know how to respect frames and stuff. So like, as you're learning them to use the move more, you'll start to understand that you really got to pick and choose when you want to use it, compared to like, oh, I can just throw this out because my opponent just wants to press. So you just got to work around. You just got to just experiment with the move. I'm still trying to figure out how to use this move more, because I don't really use it that much, because 1, I keep forgetting it's a thing, and 2, players at my skill level, they don't press buttons when they see silent entry that much. So, and like if they're gonna duck, if they duck, it covers the low and the high. So eventually I'm gonna figure it out. And then finally, we have the rage drive, the coup de grace. one of my favorite moves. Not because it's alright, it's alright. So, the Rage Drive. This is going to be a mouthful to talk about, just letting you know. So, the Rage Drive, it's like +7, +8 on block. Puts you into dynamic entry. So, basically, so that means, and you can cancel it also. So, when you do the Rage Drive, I could do any dynamic entry 1, 2, and 1+2. They frame trap on block. Oops. Like those 3 options, they all frame trap. And the low, you can interrupt the low and interrupt the dynamic entry 3. Those 2 options can be interrupted. So you kind of have to just pick and choose what you want to go for in that situation. But he also has not what I wanted to do. He also can do his unblockable from it. Like this is the original one, and then this is the Rage Drive version. Obviously, the Rage Drive version is way faster. So like a lot of my clips of me playing Lars when I'm trying to come back in the game, you usually see me do this because people, A, they don't sidestep, B, they don't try to challenge me, or C, I don't know what C is, but like there's ways around it. But yeah, he has the unblockable. It's clearly seeable, but like people just hesitate at times because of it. So basically, like the Rage Drive, there's so many options you can do after it, because you could do a move from dynamic entry. You could go into silent entry and try something like that. I don't really do that much because that's a lot of time for the opponent to just sit there and watch you try doing something. It's a lot of time for them to just, it's like 3 seconds of them just standing there watching you trying to do something. They could easily interrupt you with like a hop kick or something. So I usually don't do that much, and you can cancel it. So in some situations, if my opponent has rage and I have rage, a lot of times like I go for this instead of me actually doing a move. I'll just go for a sidestep block instead to try baiting out the rage dart. If they don't rage dart, then it is what it is, but it's worth it in my opinion, because if they go for rage dart and you sidestep block, you won the round anyway. So yeah, so you could do literally, you could do nothing, you could do a button, you could go into silent entry. Like it's hard to, there's no, if you're the opponent, there's no real way you're gonna have the read every time Lars does this. So you just have to just hope you guess right. So yeah, the Rage Drive, really good. It sucks that it takes some time to set up. It's kind of like Claudio's Rage Drive, but it is what it is. It's not like, I've learned to work my way around it. So that covers his 2 stances. And when it comes to like overall game plan, and like the way I see playing Lars, like you don't need to do anything crazy with this character. He has good pokes, he has good punishment, so you could you want to use your movement to make the opponent get forced into mistakes. Because if you watch someone like L Train is always moving around the screen, always moving around. He uses dynamic entry to just like dash in and just back out, or dynamic entry, and you could just do like I was saying before, you do like dynamic entry 1 to close the gap, and it's still you're -1, so you can still do stuff afterwards. But a lot of like my friends, when I play him, they get annoyed with me using Lars because I'm always just moving around with him, and he can create space. He can like create space from the opponent pretty easily, because 1, his backdash is good, and 2, he can somersault backwards at times. It's back up back. If I can do it, yeah, like he can do that. And this is like you go from range 0 to like range 2.5, range 3 from doing one of those. I don't suggest you do that in the opponent's face, because it leaves you vulnerable to get caught in the air and get launched for a combo. But a lot of times, like if I have life lead and I'm just spacing out, sometimes I just like back away like this, and then the opponent's like, great, now he's all the way, now he's really far away from me. Now I gotta try rushing in and getting at him. But I mostly just use my movement. Like I check him with some down back fours. Down back four is like a good poke and it's good keep out because if they're rushing in, it high crushes and is a counter hit launcher. So yeah, they have to be mindful of that. Back 3-4 is fantastic in the neutral game because when they whiff, it reaches so far. Like back 3-4 can punish Paul's Death Fist. It can punish Jack's down forward one string. So yeah, like down back fours, you got your basic pokes. Like the pokes that let you sidestep afterwards are just backdash, just like down forward 1-1-2, down back 1, down back 4. So you, and like dynamic enter 1. So like you have your options. It's like hard explaining how to play a neutral game with Lars because like you just want to poke it, you just want to annoy your opponent with pokes and just be out. And then once you be out, you wait for him the whiff. You see a whiff, like you whiff punish them, or like you pressure them a little bit in the face with some like down for 1 dashes or down for 1 into jabs or like jabs. And then like you want to fish for like sidestep arc blast because that's like my favorite thing in the game, sidestep arc blast, because it's just such a great feeling when you can hit someone with that. But I think that's everything I want to cover with him. Lars is a really solid character now in season 3 because opponents have to respect his frames. He has counter hits. His stances got buffed. And like his combo damage got buffed too, but that's like everyone across the board. So I think that definitely covers everything. If you have any questions, you can message me on Twitter. You can message me in the comments. Yeah, I appreciate your time and go play Lars.